Alright, boys and girls. Seems like I always introduce a video that way. Lecture 7. We're still on quadratic equations. Discussing, how to find the x-intercepts. This is another method. It's kind of interesting to me because it takes on a different element of just solving the equations, finding x-intercepts, even though I prefer factoring myself. However, when a is equal to 1, this also works. Then there might be a time you may want to complete the square, especially if factors are kind of hard to find. When a equals 1, this is another useful method to find the x-intercepts when you have trouble thinking of factors. So let's just get on with it here. So when a equals 1, we can complete the square, and again, it takes on finding the x and y intercepts. I'm going to actually look at an example that we did in the previous video. I just changed it to example 1. I wanted to demonstrate how this works. In standard form, it don't necessarily have to be set equal to 0. Okay? As long as a is 1, this is a method that I would learn how to use, even though I prefer factoring. Anyway, so first step, let's go ahead and see what happens here. The first step is to take C, or what might be C, to the other side. I'm going to plus 8 to both sides here. So we're not trying to set it equal to 0. I'm trying to set, I just noticed this should be an x. I'm trying to set all my x terms on one side and all my numbers on the other. Okay? This is part of completing the square. Excuse me. So 0 plus 8 is 8. This cancels out. Now I got 1x squared minus 2x. And I'm leaving a little bit of space right here. Okay? There's a reason for that. Now, here's the part of completing the square. It's one rule you have to memorize, and it's just a step that you need to follow, and it doesn't change. I want to take whatever b might be. So in this case, it's negative 2. So as a side note here, I want to take negative 2, and I'm going to divide it by 2. Well, that gives me negative 1. Now, I'm going to square that negative 1. Make sure you got parentheses around the negative, because this part should always be positive in the end. Well, that gives me positive 1. Now, this number tells me I need to add 1. This is completing the square to both sides. Now, why would I want to do that? Well, I want to be fair, follow my rule, completing the square. What happens is you need to add these two terms together, which will give me 9 in this case. Now over here, I'm going to rewrite it as an x, almost like a factor, like we did in the previous video, but I'm going to square this factor. Okay? What I did here was I set up one set of parentheses, x, and then whatever is I got when I divided by 2, that's what I'm going to put in parentheses. Okay? So I'm going to put the negative 1, the part that I got when I divided b by 2, inside parentheses here. So if you want to just know to make that a step, I would note that and do that. Now, we got to solve for x. What we can do is simply square root both sides. Okay, opposite of square is square root. I'm going to square root this. Now, there's a property that becomes involved in this. That's plus minus. Okay, when you square root a number, okay, it's the plus or minus version of that number. Okay, so let's say I got plus or minus, square root of 9 is 3. Okay, now over on the left hand side I got x minus 1 squared, square root that. Kind of releases the square, the exponent, and I just bring down what was inside parentheses, x minus 1. Now what we have is x minus 1 equals, better look back at it, plus or minus 3. Now we can solve the equation. Alright, so I'm going to plus 1 to both sides. Now pay attention here. This cancels out. X equals 1 plus or minus 3. I'm getting two answers, two x-intercepts out of this. X equals, well, what's 1 plus 3? 4. And 1 minus 3 is negative 2. Now, if you look back at the example 2 in video lecture 6, we got those same two answers by factoring. Okay? So either method works, but learn both methods. All right?